monks and lay people alike, addressing matters of controversy, dispensing spiritual counsel, sometimes unasked for. As Archbishop, he was drawn into the turmoil of church-state relations and was an important figure in the Church's attempt to wrest control away from kings and nobles. Thanks to Lanfranc's teaching, he was initiated into the intellectual mainstream of his day, though he carried out his philosophical work in such an individual way that he broke intellectually, though never personally, with Lanfranc. I will examine these contexts, monastic, intellectual, public, and ecclesiastical, with a view to showing how understanding them sheds lights on Anselm's life and on his writings. The monastic and intellectual contexts. Not even the most admiring of hagiographers, and we have such a person in the figure of Anselm's friend, disciple, and biographer Eadmer, would pretend that Anselm had always been drawn to the monastic life. An intense desire at the age of 14 to enter a monastery, thwarted by the local abbot, soon faded. Anselm turned to ordinary pursuits, not particularly devout, but also not particularly dissolute, lest he displease his pious and doting mother, Ermengarda. When she died, around 1050, Anselm was bereft. Anselm's father, Gundulf, never the easiest of men to get along with, became unbearable. In 1056, they quarreled irreconcilably, and Anselm left the family home in Aosta to make a new life elsewhere. What exactly he was looking for, or indeed whether he was looking for anything in particular at all, is unclear. We know that he traveled through Burgundy, the Loire Valley, and Normandy, where there were both schools and monasteries of great renown, but we do not know whether he sought any of them out. After 3 aimless years, he at last found a direction. He went to Bec to study with the great Lanfranc. Lanfranc was prior of the abbey and the head of its school, which at that time was open to external pupils, sons of the nobility and gentry who were to be educated in the liberal arts for careers in a world that increasingly rewarded facility with the written word, as well as clerics eager to learn from someone who relit the light of the arts in the West, whom God raised up to be a guide and a light to lead the minds of the Latins. External pupils brought in money, and the abbey was prosperous. Lanfranc managed much of its external business and had become a trusted advisor to William, Duke of Normandy. Lanfranc's scholarly reputation was founded in particular on his mystery of dialectic, the use of techniques of linguistic analysis and logical argumentation to clarify philosophical problems and to elucidate answers. The great historian, William of Malmesbury, wrote that Lanfranc sent out his pupils into the world, belching forth dialectic. There was something of a mini-renaissance of dialectic in the 11th century, although it's not entirely clear why. Generally, when a new burst of philosophical energy emerges, it has some discernible cause. New texts become available, new logical techniques are developed, scientific developments push people to think in new ways. But in the 11th century, people had all the same old texts, used all the same old logical techniques, made no new scientific discoveries of note. Yet for some, or no reason, there was a revival of dialectic, and Anselm came on the scene as the revival was in full flower. No doubt it was not the monastic life that drew him to Bec, but the opportunity to learn from the greatest of the dialecticians, Lanfranc of Bec, who might well be known as the preeminent figure of the 11th century intellectual scene if Anselm hadn't entirely eclipsed him. Anselm arrived at Bec in 1059. He fell into a sort of hero worship of Lanfranc, who in turn recognized Anselm's ability.